Every time a room in a horror film has felt wrong. Painted street footage, no music. Every distorted corridor, every shadow that moved like a character, every space that made you feel psychologically unsafe. That was invented in 1920. In a single film. With an $18,000 budget. And a paintbrush. The film was called The Cabinet of Dr Caligari. Made in Germany in 1920. It is the first horror film ever made, and it is simultaneously the story of two painters who invented an entire visual language, two World War I veterans who disguised a rage letter as horror, and two actors who played opposite roles on screen. And then lived them in real life. One of them became the Joker. Caligari tells the story of a traveling showman. Named Dr. Caligari. He arrives in a small German town with a sleepwalker in a cabinet. His name is Cesare. Caligari hypnotizes Cesare and sends him to commit murders at night. Cesare has no choice. He is completely under Caligari's control. A young man named Francis begins investigating. And what he finds. About Caligari, about Cesare, and about himself. Is the twist that changed cinema forever. The entire film cost $18,000. That was not enough to build real sets. So the production designers, Walter Ryman and Walter Rohrig, painted them instead. They painted lights and shadows directly onto flat canvas walls. The distorted buildings are two-dimensional. The tilted rooftops are painted angles on flat surfaces. The shadows that seem to leap from the walls are brushstrokes. Every shadow you see in this film is a painting. You can pause and look. Every horror director who came after looked at this film and understood something that changed how they worked. That psychological states can be made physical. That a distorted space creates a distorted feeling in the viewer. That the architecture of a room can be the psychology of a character. Every Tim Burton film. Shutter Island. Get Out. All of them trace their visual language back to two painters. And $18,000. And a flat wall. The script was written by two World War I veterans. Hans Janowitz and Karl Mayer. Both had watched soldiers sent over the top to be slaughtered. Obedient to the authority that was killing them. Caligari is the hypnotist. Cesare is the soldier. The murders are the war. The film they wrote is a rage letter. Disguised as horror. The writer's original ending was different. In Janowitz and Meyer's version, Caligari is exposed and imprisoned. Authority is defeated. The system is broken. The producer changed the ending. In the released version, the entire story is revealed as the delusion of a madman. The authority is sane. The rebel is insane. The rage letter was turned into a submission. The film has two leads. Caligari, the hypnotist. The man who controls. Cesare, the sleepwalker. The man who is controlled. Werner Krauss played Caligari. Conrad Veidt played Cesare. 20 years after making this film together, both men became their characters. In 1933, 13 years after making Caligari, the Nazi government imposed a racial questionnaire on everyone working in the German film industry. Conrad Veidt was one of the highest-paid film stars in Germany. He filled in the question about his race. He was not Jewish. His wife Ilona Prager was. He refused to forsake her. They fled Germany 1 week after their wedding. He donated his entire personal fortune to Britain to fund the fight against the people he had just escaped. Then went to Hollywood and spent his career playing Nazi officers on screen, including Major Strasser in Casablanca. He played the enemy he personally fought. He died of a heart attack in 1943, playing golf in Los Angeles. He never saw the war end. Werner Krauss, who played Caligari the controller, made a different choice. He joined the Nazi Party. He appeared in anti-Semitic propaganda films. He played Jewish characters in films designed to dehumanize Jewish people. The man who played the controller became one. They had made the same film together. In the same year. Playing the same roles. And then lived them. The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari was the first horror film. It is also the most stolen from film in cinema history. Every director who has ever used a distorted space to create psychological unease. Every painter of shadow as character. Every production designer who has made a room feel wrong studied this film. Expressionist horror. German expressionism. Film noir. Gothic cinema. Psychological thriller. All of them have a debt to two painters. And $18,000. And a flat canvas wall in Berlin in 1919. If you watched the first episode of this channel. About the man who laughs. And the face that became the Joker. The actor behind that face was Conrad Veidt. The same man who played Cesare in this film. The same man who wrote Jew on a Nazi form. The same man who donated his fortune to Britain. One actor. The first horror film. The Joker's face. Casablanca. A Nazi questionnaire answered with a single word. That is what hidden Hollywood is. The shadows were painted on flat walls. The film was a rage letter. One actor wrote Jew on a Nazi form. The other joined them. Subscribe. Next week, a director built 4 parallel stories across 4 different civilizations, to say one thing about what power does to people. In 1916. Before most of the 20th century had happened. That is intolerance. And it is darker than this.